Guys,
So we have a quorum. I put an agenda on your table. Does anybody want to approve the agenda as presented? Make a motion that we approve the agenda as presented.
Support. Okay.
All those in favor of approving the agenda as presented, say aye. Aye. All aye. Approved. Brief public comment. Bob,
Yeah.
you turn the camera on yourself now.
No, that's okay.
You can sit.
I'll
Well, come on
just.
over here and talk into your camera.
All right.
You
Can I
can
sit
have
over
a-
here for the meeting?
You can have
Sure.
Sure.
Oh.
You can have a,
Uh-oh.
what?
What you got right?
Except for you can't have a brownie, you're not coming.
That's all.
You can have a brownie.
Let me just tease.
Oh.
You're all right.
Are you giving away my brownies?
So,
Well, whatever it takes.
the only question I
Barry.
have, or the only statement that I would like to make is, I think you're probably all aware, I know Susan is, that my wife FOIA'd the applications that were presented over the last 2 years, I believe. And I just don't feel that it's right, and I want to try to find out what exemption under the FOIA laws was used to redact, especially the name. I know you're not allowed to ask questions, so that's it.
I don't know if Barry knows that answer or not. The law that we allowed us to redact the names of the applicants.
Just so you know what happened,
Uh-huh.
I have all the applications.
Right.
I made a PDF of all of them. We have an open space scoring system and an agricultural land scoring system.
Uh-huh.
And those tables were provided.
Redacted, but yes.
Yeah, I mean, I sent them to Plato.
Right.
And he took it from there.
Right.
So it was his call on what got removed.
Okay.
Not mine. I gave him the tables as I
Right.
have them and I've
Okay.
shared with these folks. So he was the one that made the decision.
Okay, so who would be the best person to talk to then to find out what he used as far as his justification for redaction?
I mean, I guess I would ask
Probably ask one of the executives.
the,
Clerk.
There are no executives, but you could ask someone on the board, and perhaps our representative, Mary Beth Schmidt.
Okay.
yeah, or Gary.
Alright.
I would say the two people that would go for.
Okay.
And say, you'd just like to know.
Yeah, because I've read through those over and over, and I just don't see where where it fits.
And I don't know the FOIA law much at all, but I assume that there's a correlation between that and the Open Meetings Act, which specifies that you can go into closed session for certain things, including the negotiation of the purchase of land.
Right.
Up until the time that there's a purchase agreement
Right.
on the property. And so I just assumed, I don't know, but I
I know,
assumed that.
but, well, you know, we kind of differ on that one too.
Yeah.
I understand that.
Yeah.
But my thing is if you're negotiating a price, you can go into closed session. Up to that point, everything would be open. So the application would be open, the name of the person would be open, the parcel would be open, but once you start talking price, then yeah, you go into closed session and discuss that.
Mhm.
So, okay.
Thanks, Bob.
Yep.
Correspondence. I have this Land Conservancy publication journal that came to me. Do you all get this at home?
No.
So what we'll do is,
It's on the internet.
it's on the internet, but it's much more fun to read. This has something in it that's really an awesome parcel that was preserved here near Portage Lake. And it's 100 acres. That was a family farm. And the article is wonderful, Dr. Reichert and his family's still alive, and they spent a lot of years there, water skiing, snow skiing, ice fishing, camping. and they have donated that to this land conservancy. They didn't say that. Reichert family, the Reichert, at St. Joe's Hospital. I don't know if it's the same family or not.
I don't know. Yeah, it's the same spelling.
Same spelling, right.
And
He's a doctor.
yeah, so it could be. Yeah.
And he's still living, and it's,
That was a little escape place.
yes. So what we'll do is I'll try and call them and have them send you this to your house.
Okay.
So if you want to just write your addresses down, that will make it easier for me to just put on the back of that. And plus, I think we should send this to have them send it to the board as well, this legacy and journal. You haven't done that yet, probably, right?
Nope.
Legacy is the outfit that Merle donated her.
Yes, right.
It was called something else back then. That's when I was the executive director.
It was called,
So I dealt with Merle and Michael. Donation.
what was it called? Land Conservancy?
No,
Something.
there were many different names. There was a Potawatomi, and then there was various combined names.
Right. Annual budget,
Oh, new business, hang on.
oh yeah, that's new
I got-
business.
I got something to report
Oh,
out.
Okay,
I get an assist on a 66 or 67 acre preservation in Freedom Township. A friend of mine was looking to either sell his land or development rights, and I hooked him up with Tom Freeman, and been coaching and working with Dan, the guy who's selling me, and finally convinced him that it was the right thing to do, and he's going to sell the land to the Washtenaw County Park System. It's not official yet, but he told me today he's made up his mind, so we preserved another 66, 67 acres, and it's beautiful land, nice hilly, lots of hardwoods, and so anyway, we get not in Salem, but still
congratulations.
in the county, so that'll be a good thing.
Good.
What township?
Freedom.
Freedom Township in
There's
Washtenaw
some
County?
more, somehow or another, and you and I talked about it, but you didn't think it touched anything, but
Not quite.
I
Close.
guess they also negotiated on another piece of property there, so that's going to link
Mhm.
all those properties together, and it's just too bad we can't do that stuff here.
Annual budget. I contacted Gary Whitaker and told him that I was a little confused about how the budget was one thing on the spreadsheet, and then in the Appropriations Act, they referred to us as the zoning department, and I brought that to their attention, and he had no idea.
When did you talk to him?
I talked to him on a Friday.
The last board meeting.
At the board meeting, did they correct
They
it?
corrected it.
Good, because that's what I'm asking. They corrected
They
it?
corrected it at the board meeting.
Good. I asked them to do that, and I appreciate that information. Consultant report?
Yes, I incorrectly put into the closed session, the closed session about the Balo property, which is actually public information at this point, because it did close. So that should be listed as in the open session.
Balo property closed.
Yes, on the 14th, so last Thursday.
And that's 200 acres?
206 and a half, I think it is.
Congratulations, that's awesome.
Yeah, and I noted in my report here that Salem did pay for base lines, and there was one on the north side of the road, one on the south side of the road. So
That
two
was
different
in
ones.
that was in your
Budget.
Yes,
notes.
yes. So it was not insignificant, it was $2,600 to do the two of them. And part of that was that, usually they cost less than that. They usually do about $800 for those. But I was using the Land Conservancy's format, because they're the ones that are staffing the county's farmland preservation program. And they had, it was the first one that they had done also. They sort of created the template and hoped that it would work well, but hadn't gone through it yet. So we had to go back and forth a bit more than typical to make sure we were figuring things out correctly. So a little extra time, but even though no cash was provided toward that easement purchase, that was a substantial contribution from the township.
Good.
And both of those use federal grants.
Did they get anything from Washington County?
So it was, something around half of it from the feds and half of it from the county. And that was the first project, first farmland preservation project closed by the county farmland preservation program, which was,
In Salem, you mean?
yes, so anywhere in the county, actually.
Oh,
They have had 2 application rounds now.
wow.
In September of the last 2 years. And that's the first project that they closed. So, they've got one under their belt now, which is good. That's all.
Okay, then we have the open space master plan report from Sandy.
It's right now scheduled to meet next Tuesday at 7 o'clock, but that may be open for discussion.
Tuesday at 7 p.m.?
Yes.
All right.
Can we join those, Barry?
I have not been
Okay.
invited or asked to do that, so probably not.
Old business, landowner letters. We haven't received any more.
We did have an application a
Oh.
couple of months ago that you handed out
Right.
to me, and I prepared
We
the
don't-
typical letter and sent it on to Dell to be forwarded, and assumed that it had been done. A week or so ago,
I saw you wrote him. Did he send it out?
I don't know.
I don't know either. Okay.
That woman, the applicant, had not received the letter, so she called me and said, what's up? And I said, did you get the letter? She said, no. So,
Okay.
we haven't had any other applications, but that's the first time that it hasn't been followed through with.
Okay. Website development, right now, they're in the midst of taking bids for a website, changing the website, but our website,
That was covered in the board meeting.
right? And
They're not taking bids, they approved a bid.
Oh, they did?
Yeah.
Oh,
They approved,
They
I think, the
approved-
only one they had.
Instead,
Yeah, that's pretty cheap.
consultant or something like this, she's going to do
Was
it.
that a
under
bid or
her
was
own.
that just a voicemail?
Again, I don't know, I didn't see it, I just,
what did we say?
it was a correspondence from someone.
The board voted for
Except,
$1,400 or $1,600,
I think it was 18 or 19, but.
what it
Yeah.
was, for Mary Beth to have this person go ahead and write a custom program for the township.
Oh.
Was it 1,600 or was it 7,000?
No,
No, it was
it was
small.
less than, it was like 18, it was somewhere between 16 and 19, let's put it that way.
What did you get from the discussion? Is this woman going to then maintain it month after
Yes.
month after month, or is it?
For a fee.
Yes.
I think there was some,
It was a minimal fee.
wasn't there the first couple months or 3 months or something? Anyway.
$29.95
She
or
said,
something like that.
the lady said
Yeah.
she could prepare this in 1 week.
Oh, yeah.
And the board said, well, boy, we better give her a little bit extra time, maybe for 2 weeks.
So next week, we should have it.
Right, it's gonna be up and running on Tuesday next week.
That'll be good, because everything that was under land preservation was gone. We were wiped out.
I think
No,
it's back.
that
It
is
is
not,
back?
that is not fully loaded everything in, that's ready to load.
Right, ready to start, I
And
understand.
she's gonna help load it.
Good.
When you wrote that, I went in and checked, and that's why I knew our budget was correct.
So I'm gonna, so I'll have to get with her, because some of that information that was on there was not correct. I mean, because you were not, you know, like, the terms weren't correct and our positions weren't correct, so we'll correct that. Okay, so, let's skip to approval of draft minutes for February 20th, 2013. I've sent them to you, and then I've also copied them for you. So I would like to hear a motion to approve the draft minutes of February 20th as submitted.
These are the same as the one you sent.
Yes.
Then I make a motion that we accept
I'll second it.
minutes February 20th, 2013.
Thank you. All in favor of approving the draft minutes of February 20th, 2013 as presented, say aye. Aye. Approved, all aye. Now we have approval of the closed session minutes, and they're right here. There's only one copy, so I need you to sign them. They're,
The same ones I sent you.
yes. And also included in your stuff, the approved minutes, and including the annual report of 2012, although I didn't attach the report because we all have that. So. I checked all of it. I checked both. Thank you.
Did you have any discussion about the board meeting and discussion on our agenda tonight?
Well, we can do that at board members' comments, probably. I didn't put it on there as an agenda.
Okay.
Are
Yeah.
initials okay?
Yes.
That is something, you know, without mentioning names of properties that could and should be discussed in open session.
Thank you.
Was there a motion to approve the closed session minutes of February 20th, 2013? It's not on this agenda correctly.
I'll make that motion.
As presented.
I make the motion.
Steve Schaefer, seconded by
I'll second.
Sandy Petrowski. All those in favor of approving the closed session minutes of February 20th, 2013 as presented, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Passed. Board member comments. We want to comment about the Board of Trustee meeting, is that what we want to do?
You know, throwing it out for your, I mean, you weren't there, the rest
Right.
of us were.
That would be helpful.
You've heard some things from me. But
What I heard was the Board of Trustees.
You can't talk about what's in closed session, though.
yeah, we can talk about.
Only what was in
general
We can
things.
talk about the meeting.
The Board of Trustees authorize the supervisor
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you can say that.
You can do that.
to proceed with negotiations to purchase some property. And they mentioned a dollar target or dollar limit, I don't know which, of, what, 1,300,000?
1.2 to 1 point.
A range,
Was it? Is that what it was? 1.6?
1.2 to 1.6 mil?
I thought it was 1 point, but.
And I didn't quite totally grasp the sharing ownership thing, and
getting a little more specific, I think, than it should be done in closed session. There were other things, you know, each of the trustees had an opportunity to speak about the subject, and most of them did. I jotted down some notes about what different people said.
So that was an open session.
Yes.
So I mean, we don't really need to report that because that was already in open
Yeah.
session. Anything else?
It must be Northern Town.
Is there something you want? Yeah, there's Brownie.
Well, yeah, if you want to go to public comment, I'd maybe like to ask a couple questions on.
You have a Brownie first?
No, no. I have Betty, come on.
Oh, sorry.
Try to soften you up.
Is there any other
Um,
board member comments about anything?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, extended public
And-
comment.
And again, if I say something or ask a question that you don't answer, don't answer. But, one, wouldn't any kind of purchase, now that we have your board, have to go through as far as before you negotiate a price, which obviously they made a motion to negotiate, wouldn't you have to do appraisals and all of those things?
Absolutely.
So
If-
isn't isn't the board kind of jumping the gun then if they're already authorizing a supervisor to negotiate a
I
price?
thought he was authorizing him to proceed with the process, kind of thing.
But they also
Oh,
authorize
That would be part of the process.
our
Okay.
consultant to,
Oh, but in addition to that, the board also authorized an appraisal of the property.
Okay,
So that's underway.
okay. Again, I would just hate to sit there and go throw a
Take
price
all
out
these
there,
myself.
Yeah.
especially when you're talking those kind of numbers without
You betcha.
an appraisal.
I strongly emphasize
And
that.
in fact,
Those run off them in my
You
car
charter
or
for it.
Okay.
or somebody gets
So
one.
they did approve that expenditure back when they came back into open session again.
Okay,
And I took it as Gary was directed to negotiate, they gave him some parameters,
Mhm.
but it was not to commence until they had that appraisal
okay,
in hand.
okay.
Was that stated? That was the case, or was it just understood? Because I didn't, I don't remember hearing that, let's put it that way. I hope they understood it.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't explicitly stated, but there was enough other
I
discussion.
interpret it as you,
Yeah.
okay, so.
So once those numbers are in hand, then
Okay.
Gary is welcome to do that. And then I was asked to contact potential partners for that, the Greenbelt program in the county.
Mhm.
And I've done that just sort of preliminarily, say this is
Sure.
maybe coming down the pike. Just look.
So it's in the Greenbelt area? That quadrant?
Yes.
Oh, you let that slip.
Third of the townships,
Yeah.
narrow.
Isn't it third? I always
Mhm.
look at it, it's about a quadrant,
It's-
it's about four.
It's actually
Closer to 33?
12 sections, so it's a third.
Okay.
It was originally the southwest
Right.
quarter of the township, which is 9 sections, and then they moved it out one.
That's right, you grew it to
Back
the
when you were
east.
still office.
Yeah.
So it's 12 sections, which is a third of the
Right.
township.
Okay, thank you.
No?
That's it?
One other thing I wanted to say was that, you know, I've been around this block a couple of times, and
Mhm.
I was thinking about, you know, in Ann Arbor Township, the board of trustees actually asked their attorney for an opinion
Right.
on the confidentiality issue.
Mhm.
I have that here.
Yeah, I gave it to Sue at some point. You know, the 3 or 4 page opinion. But SIO also asked, you know,
Mhm.
questions of their attorney. I don't think they got a written opinion about it, but they got some direction on it. And people have been consistent in their interpretation of the law. And I realize you may disagree with it.
Right.
But it wasn't like we just said, no, that looks good to me, let's just do this. It
Sure.
was- We sought, you know, legal advice, and this is what they said
Mhm.
we could do. And it is optional, you don't have to do that, but the statute does allow you to do that. And
Oh, okay.
so far, everybody
Alright.
has said, we would rather keep it confidential, we'd rather not. And many landowners like it to be confidential, they don't want it to be known.
Well, I know that is one of the exemptions, that if a township board offers confidentiality because they've requested it, then that can do it right there. That's one of the exemptions that you can use.
Well, I know several of the people that did ask that.
But I would think it would have to be in writing. Just for somebody like me that would want a FOIA, and then you could return it and say, look, they asked for confidentiality, it was all signed. and-
Everything does.
Yeah.
It's not in writing.
Yeah.
You know, there's a lot of folks who feel it's a very private matter,
Mhm.
probably understand. And,
Sure.
Oh, I would if I was in that.
Yeah, and there are people who, you know, not really know here per se, but I know in other parts of the county where they said, you know, I don't want my neighbors knowing.
Right.
And I feel very strongly about this, and I really want to see it happen, but I really don't want my neighbors to know about it.
Right.
Until it's done.
Right.
You know, and then they can't really do anything from
Sure.
there, but, and so, just endeavor to respect that. And the other factor is, you know, it's probably not as much of an issue today as it was maybe 5 or 8 or 10 years ago. But if word gets out that the Hiles are interested in selling their property, then, you know, the vultures can start circling and say, well, you know.
But that would be better for me.
Maybe.
The more people
It might be.
interested, the
Sure.
better
Maybe.
price I could get.
Maybe,
Well,
or
possibly.
if I was
Yeah.
your neighbor and
Of course.
didn't want you to do it, I might put up some noise.
And of course, the applicant can announce it anytime he wants.
Sure.
That's correct.
Sure.
That's correct.
To take advantage of
But from the other perspective, from the, you know, from the government entities, you know, perspective, that could work against them if you want to try to get things at a reasonable fair market value or something even below that, you know, and somebody else is
Right.
competing with you.
Right,
on
but
that.
then there's the other side, which is the open and transparent government, and
Mhm.
spending government money or wanting to know what's going on.
Yep.
So, I know it's a fine line.
Yep, and I fully support that.
Yep.
It's just, I do feel like that it's in the best interest of the township, or whatever the entity is, to keep that
Sure.
under wraps.
Okay.
Until we say, we're ready to spend money on this.
Right.
And then it becomes public.
Let me throw a few things out, if I, just some open discussion. We've been thinking a lot about the last few weeks, and there's been a lot of comments about people who, you know, they're against PDR, you know, in the paper and things like that, personal development rights and things. The one individual in the paper, I don't know the gentleman, mentioned that we could preserve land just by zoning it. And, you know, see, he got a full-page article, right, press time on it in the website. I don't understand how that works, or maybe I do, but I mean, if I zone your property as a farm, and you have 40 acres, and later in life, someone comes along and you decide you want to split off 10 acres for your kids, or to sell it to Barry or someone else, you can't do that. You're probably going to be a little upset about that, right? And you've gotten nothing in return. And just in the last few months, I've seen zoning changes occur in this township, you know, right in this room, just by a vote.
it. Also, in the future too.
And it could in the
Well,
future.
Zoning,
And
it's a zoning
so
change. It's
last
always
week, I started driving in Salem Township on the road, mile roads, east and west, just looking at properties, looking at it. And in Oakland County, right just the other side of the road, rural area, big sign, zoning change proposed, right? So I don't know that, I don't personally feel that truly preserves or protects
it doesn't.
property, right? But there's people out there who think it does.
Yeah.
But I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
The gentleman who wrote the letter, got the press the same time we did, he was talking that we should be doing it through our master plan. And our master plan already does talk about, and has already got in it, that there are, how Salem Township wants to preserve farmland in Salem Township.
But if I owned a
In the
piece of
master
farm
plan.
ground and it was in the master plan, and I came to the board and said I want it rezoned for a subdivision, it could be rezoned, couldn't it?
Well,
Yeah.
it would be difficult to do
It would be
because
considered.
it would have to be looked at, but we, in
could
our
be.
township so
But-
far, we have not done that kind of spot zoning in which you just go, you just go out of character with surrounding properties. You know, we have never done that in Salem Township,
But isn't most of the township zone
except for now we have.
AR?
It is not, I mean,
right?
we have,
Agriculture residential.
not
which is-
all of it, but
Well, not all of it, but.
We
But
have-
most of the open lands are zoned AR, and the minimum lot size in that
it's
district is
2 acres.
2 acres, so theoretically, you could take a 100-acre property and cut it
Yes,
into 50.
and they could put it into.
2-acre parcels
right,
more or less, and it'd be 45 with roads and utilities and stuff, but nevertheless.
Right, and they could do site condominiums on it.
Yeah, there's options that are there, such that, you know, the current zoning is not protective of the open space character of the property. And as you said, Steve, you could, the township could say, well, we're gonna, you know, zone it for 40-acre minimums, you know, and if you got 100 acres, you got two divisions then, you got one division, do it one, you know, 60 and a 40 or 250s.
Well, the reason why.
And that's it, and you get no compensation for it, which is why, you know, we,
Yeah.
you know, 20 years ago said, that's not a good option. Who's gonna go for that? You know, and why would we just wanna compensate somebody for that and leave it as 100 acres?
I agree, but how do we clarify that kind of, I mean, because that went out, and there's people that are thinking that that's done. And I keep going back to the history of Canton conversation, right, that letter that I dug up, and I went on the Canton website, and I looked at the history of Canton, right? It's our future. It truly is. The history of Canton is the future of Salem. And, you know, they've got the same clay that we've got. They had the same beginnings of Salem, right? And some areas perked, some areas didn't, right? And I'm sure they had a great zoning plan. In fact, you know, I heard from, I think it was Sandy, said they would never build past Beck Road. Well, that's all got blown out of the water, right? But, you know, how do we then take and bring that information out to the group, to the county or the township rather, and educate these folks on this? And one of the thoughts, you know, and then there's a large group that don't want us to do anything with PDR, right? And we've got two tools to work with, really. We can buy land, or we can preserve land with purchase and development rights. And we can't buy all the land in the township. We don't have enough money. I don't care how much money you got, and you don't want to do that. So I guess what I want to know is what other ideas are out there. If we're going, and everyone on this board, if you were either write-up, everyone says they're interested in preserving the rural character of the township. What's the plan? Because, I mean, if we can't use PDR, we're kind of hosed. And if we can't use the master plan to preserve the land with zoning, we're in trouble there too. So I just don't know if we should have one of our meetings and use the messenger and say, come to the meeting and get some ideas. Because I think there's a lot of people that support what we're doing, but they're just not saying a word. They don't want to get involved. Because I have spoken to other people, but they're not the type to get up and come in here and say, I agree with what these guys are doing. I mean, they're walking into a bear trap, right? And they don't want to do anything.
Well, I think that basically we've run into a philosophical difference. This board, I don't think, is interested in preserving land.
They say they are.
Yeah, they do, and it's in writing. But
They don't understand what preserving is. They think that buying land is preserving it, but it isn't, because that can be changed.
On that subject, I have a question there. The question is, one of our choices is to buy the land. That doesn't preserve it.
No.
In fact, a board member said, let's buy the land because it can be used
We saw
for
it
development later.
treat it
And for profit, it's a
It's
way
an
of.
investment.
An investment.
So we really only have one for
That's
sure
true.
tool,
That's
Yeah.
true.
not two.
And
Unless I think that you can have buying and owning land as a preservation tool, but there's other steps that have to go
Yeah,
into
well, it's
that.
gotta
I mean,
really-
County Parks does that, but they've been around for 30 or 40 years. They have an ordinance that directs their natural areas program. They
Right.
have county parks, and, I mean, they have a commission. They have all these things that are set up that, you know, that's what they're dedicated to doing. Salem isn't at that place. Perhaps the
Right.
open space recreation plan will lead to that.
Can be done,
We're not there
but
now.
takes an extremely strong support series of ordinances and.
Yeah, it's a
Well,
longer-term
what-
process.
But we have a non-aligned objectives,
Planning.
right, with
Master
our
plan.
All of
objectives of the board.
All of it.
And in the end of one of the discussions in the open session, TJ made the comment that, other townships have a tax.
Right, yep.
A millage.
A millage, and that money is set aside for, just for land preservation. So when that land preservation board comes in, you're gonna spend that money, because that's what it's slotted for, that's what the people contributed to. We don't need the tax, and the prior board set aside those monies for us to do this investment work with, right?
I don't think she's aware that our township would have a township tax. She thought,
That's scary.
I don't think she knows, because the
She
way
didn't
she
know
said
what?
it, she
We
didn't
don't-
know
we
that we
don't
don't have tax.
assess.
We don't have a Salem Township tax?
The way she made that comment,
I think you're right.
she implied
Wow.
that she thought Salem residents are charged taxes for lots of stuff, and if they wanted, they
Yes,
Have
pass a
one
millage
more.
specifically for.
Really?
And,
Well, I guess we should call her and talk to her
well,
about that.
I'm thinking we
Is
should.
that- Who was that? Was that TJ?
TJ.
I'll call her and talk to her.
And, the other thing was that Mary Beth said that we should redo, or suggested, she didn't mandate, she suggested that we change ordinance to say 10 years.
Yeah, preserve.
And you said that there's issues with that because the
Can't do it.
Next.
people
Well,
who
you
want to
can-
contribute.
You can't get other.
You can
people
do
money.
lots of things. You won't get a dime out of any other funding source from that. So it's a temporary, you can call those term easements, because they have a length of time that they apply, whereas we're dealing primarily with perpetual easements. If you want to get money from somebody else, you got to deal with perpetual easements. You won't get any greenbelt money, or county money, or federal money, anything.
And just
10 years goes by in such a short period of time to put
really.
that much effort.
50 years goes
in
by.
work
Yeah.
Now, I was telling
into it.
Steve though, that in Leelanau County, there's an active conservancy there. It's been around for a long time, done a lot of great projects, mostly natural areas, great like shoreline and lake frontage and all this kind of stuff. And they sort of, it's a small county, and they did all the great, natural area projects there was. And they said, well, what do we do now? Well, we have all this farmland, it's both, tilled ground and pasture for cattle, and obviously fruit ground also. And they said, well, that's really, the backbone of our community. We want to work on that also. They tried doing a village a couple of years ago, and it went down in flames. And so they regrouped and raised money privately, but this could certainly be done with public money if you wanted to also. If the board of trustees wanted to do it, the public supported it, but in this case, it was private money. And they put together a program. It's been in operation now for a while, and they were term agreements, not easements. It was modeled after the PA, what's commonly called PA 116 program, which can be for as little as 10 years initially. We can do up to 90 years. But it's sort of modeled on that for 10 years. There's no property tax break on it. People did get an annual payment, I'm not sure how much it was, for 10 years. And they had access to some other educational programs about improving farm efficiencies to make their farming operation more profitable, and some other opportunities that the average person was not, the average landowner didn't have access to. And they also, as I understand it, wrote into it a right of first refusal, so that if that person said in year 6, I'm ready to get out of this, I want to settle, I want to retire, or whatever it is, I just don't want to do this anymore. The Conservancy then had the first opportunity to buy the property at the market value. And then they would place an easement on the property and then sell the property. So that's their program in a nutshell. I'm sure there's more to it than that. That's as much as I can remember about it right now. But so they do, it's again, not an easement, but it's a term agreement, 10 years, and it's gone, and they had an initial enough money originally to do, some number of acres, 4,000 acres or something like that, whatever it was, and they sold out like that.
Well,
And they raised some more money, had a second round, and did that as well.
I just continue to struggle like this program I worked on with Danny with that property. It just went like that. Nobody screamed, nobody yelled, nobody got upset. And it went through. Now, a little bit different, but I guess why does this stuff work in every other township and not here? That's what's frustrating to me. And I look at, look ahead, and maybe we just need to sit down with these guys, or ask them to come to this meeting, and just talk to them. Open conversation, because I think, we made that presentation here a few weeks back. It was probably.
Presentation.
That's great.
Well, but I
It was
feel
excellent.
as though we failed,
No.
because I don't think it's sunk in, and I think we gave them too much information all at once, and it was overload, right?
Well, some of them,
But when you get a presentation that's overload, you don't sit and just ignore it. You go back
Well-
and review it when you get home
Yeah,
or whatever.
Just to throw something out there, but has anybody ever thought about possibly putting something on the ballot for a small village?
Well, I was gonna go there, but I'm almost certain that would just get shot down. I mean, it's kinda, maybe not a
Who would-
millage.
who would shoot
Why
it
would
down?
we
The
need a
people?
millage when we have $9 million in the bank?
Exactly.
Well,
you can put it on the
because
ballot
then
without
you're,
having a millage.
Yeah, we could just
But-
say to
we'll
put
put it
on
on the ballot
ballot
to tell the
to spend
people.
some of the money.
I got it. I mean, why don't we put it on the ballot and say, use the interest off our money to do these things, right?
I'd rather not do that. I'd rather, if we're gonna go to all that trouble, we should have, the hard part is not having specific money for us from year to year. I mean, we were given $200,000 per year for 5 years on the interest income. Well, now they're saying our interest income was less than 100,000 last year.
That is not.
So, well, we can look into that if we had something to spend it on now, but we don't have anything to
I
spend it on.
I think it does when you look at how the investments were done before versus how the investments are being done now.
Yeah, but
No,
that-
but
that
we're
just
talking
took
about the past
place.
year when
Right, that's what
Paul
I'm
was
saying.
doing it.
Right, and that's what I'm saying, and what
Yeah.
rate of return is
Well,
that?
the other thing I thought about was putting some kind of comment in that messenger and saying, look, we need your input, we want your insight. Say something to the fact, and I'm just opening up for a discussion, is, there's been comments that they do not want, the Board of Trustees does not want us to use the PDR program. We'd like your input on that, or any other ideas.
But that's not what they said in open session, I heard. I mean, I thought in open session, they didn't say we shouldn't use PDR, did they?
I don't know, I got the impression from all of the discussion.
I mean, there was
prior to
discussion, but was
closed
there an actual
session
motion?
that we-
No, there
No,
was
there
no
was not a
motion.
motion, but all the discussion was is that no one wanted PDRs. That they did not feel PDR, in fact, I don't know, I should have brought it from the,
2 or 3 of them stated, I am in favor of preserving land. And one of them said, the way I'd like to preserve it is 10 years for very small amounts of money. And another one said, the way I'd like to preserve it is in 20-acre parcels scattered around the township so that none of them are concentrated
Pocket parks.
when they're more scattered around, then everybody gets to enjoy them.
Gary opened the conversation was he was disappointed with the Hornbeck property there.
Well, that's another subject I
Yeah.
didn't talk about in closed session.
But I took that as he didn't support PDR. In any event, maybe I should just wait, but
Well, what, I think what you're talking about is you're showing why you need we call it open space master plan. Because you've got board members up there all wanting a couple different things, but if you come up with a plan that the township buys into,
Right.
there's your plan. This is what we're.
But there really was no
maybe
motion
we
to
don't
give us
want
direction.
Pocket parks, or
There was
I'm just trying to take
not
an
even
There was
conversation
about.
Conversation, I mean, conversation is just conversation.
There
and
was
all-
no conversation about directing
No,
this board.
you are correct.
None.
You are
Well,
correct.
there was
It was
varied
direction
opinions.
towards you, towards what Barry was supposed to do.
I guess, you know, if we're to go on, you know, I want us to be productive, right? And if we've got to, you know, modify some of our tactics to work with this board, right? Because I'm sure the next board will come along, we'll have to, you know, there'll be opinions and thoughts in there. I mean, we just need to figure out a methods or processes that's
Well,
going to work.
did they give us direction as to
No.
what we're supposed to do with,
No.
with the scoring system? I thought that's
Well,
what,
They want
there
us
was
to
some-
revamp the scoring
Yeah, but
system.
they just,
did they do a motion directing
like
us to
this.
do that?
yeah,
Oh.
make it different.
Make it different, but we won't tell you.
Right, but they did not tell us how they want, at least, am I correct in that?
They didn't tell us anything.
I don't think they gave us any indication of
So-
how, where they felt the scoring system was deficient, where we should improve upon it, or what they wanted.
What's gonna happen?
The one thing that was said
Was
was,
the 180 points, I mean, somebody was talking
Well,
about.
David,
Right,
That was.
Yeah,
right, but that was corrected and
Yeah.
clarified for him.
the one thing that was said that they thought should be different, although there wasn't any clear direction on this, but they thought that how likely the soils in a property are to support septic fields should be considered.
Right. Because there was much mention of perks.
Yeah.
Yes. So,
So but they didn't direct us to do
No,
that.
No.
they didn't direct us to do
No.
anything.
no, there was no direction given.
What's the opinion there? If it perks, it would be better to buy because it's more developable than
We-
something that doesn't perk.
It
Right.
does. If
Which
land,
is something that
That's a
doesn't perk
concept.
can be engineered fields.
Of
and-
course, just look up there,
So,
you
there's no
know,
real difference.
Northfield
know
Crossing,
that. Well,
they don't
you don't
understand
know.
that, and they don't understand
Was it, you can catch that.
Northfield
Nobody else can.
Northfield Crossings, they have their
Yeah.
own system,
Yeah.
and they put in a manufactured home park in there.
With, and
So, I
what's
mean,
the
we
other,
had
plus
no-
with clustering and with
Right.
all sorts of different
Site
things.
condominiums, you can do all
Any
kinds of stuff
property can be
developed.
developed.
I don't know, I mean, we probably need to sit down, ask, and going back to where I was before, you know, when we did the presentation, either I didn't communicate it well,
I don't agree with that.
or
I don't.
they weren't paying attention, or they didn't understand.
No, or number 4 is
The
they
presentation
didn't
was
wanna do it.
They have preconceived
There were
notions.
people in the audience that did not agree with land preservation, that actually made comment that the presentation was great.
You know.
So I don't think you can find fault with the information you present.
Back to your original question though about rezoning, there is a way, and it's come up right now, currently, with the rezoning down in the urban service district. One of the things that the lawyer for Shellstack, Salem Springs mentioned was by rezoning it to residential office park, which is not a viable economic development right now, you're in essence rezoning it to something that's gonna make it stay rural. So, and the answer I believe that Doug said, if Sandy, you were there, was that we're supposed to be looking at things 15 to 20 years out and working towards that. So that's both sides of that. And then the other thing that did come up, just to let you know, Sandy was here, was talking about estate residential. There was a short discussion about eliminating estate residential from the township.
That's 10 acre,
5 acre.
5.
Yeah.
So that'll increase more development.
Well, it'll,
There's reasons you probably shouldn't do it. One is the government likes that there's at
Correct.
least one type of zoning
Yeah.
in every township for every type of thing, so.
One other thing that nobody's mentioned, board member, maybe did, one board member said, I'm in favor of land preservation. Well, that was the 20 acres guy.
It was
Of-
Dale.
Of smaller plots, not farms, no farms, in fact, was his word.
He said that before.
No farms, small plots.
He didn't want to subsidize a farm.
Yeah.
Are we ready for another brief comment?
Sure.
And my comment is sort of a question. We are aware of the board's directive regarding purchasing some property, some of which would be preserved. And my question is, without any directive from the board of trustees, should we should we take action to help get that done and to make sure that everything that our board could do is done to support that?
I want to talk about that, but I want to talk about that in closed session.
And that's another half of my question, is that open?
I have some thoughts.
Well, that conversation
Meeting
was
thing or
was
not?
held in closed session, so I think we should keep it in closed session.
I don't know.
You
what-
weren't there, but that's just my opinion, and I think I
Should
know
it
where
be in
you're
closed
going.
session or should it be?
So I think.
Start to
we-
get more specific.
Yeah, I think in order to get the specifics,
Great.
I don't want to, I think we're treading on, we're getting out there
Let's
a little
just say
bit.
this, anything that we do, we want to be successful in.
Absolutely.
You throw some things in there that are potentially making us look as though we're part of the mix of something that's unsuccessful, and yet we are going to,
Be the fall guys.
yes,
Right.
okay?
If we do it, we're gonna get,
So let's talk
we
about
get none of
that.
the credit and all of the
Bad stuff.
problem.
So, I mean, I think we have to give that some serious consideration.
I have no more comment.
Okay, so I vote we go into closed session.
Do you have any more questions?
No.
About anything? Okay. Who would like to make a motion to go into closed session
I
for
make that
consideration of nominated properties?
I second it.
Carl Gierman, Steve Schaefer. All those in favor of going into closed session for consideration of nominated properties? Action by roll call vote.
Oh, I had to say it. Come on.
Steve Schaefer,
Aye.
How many times people tell me?
Carl Gierman,
Aye.
Sandy Petrowski.
Aye.
Susan, yes. All yes,
8:56.
entering in at 8:56. 7:56.
Technically.
8:56.
7:56
Yes.
PM. Thank you. I can't see it on the back of my.
Sandy, I either need you to